Hello everyone, this is Jill Yamashita. I will be guiding you through SPSS Exercise 1 for the Psychology 301 class. This exercise is on descriptive statistics. So SPSS is a statistical program that allows psychologists as well as other social scientists to do data analysis. Now, before we can even begin, the first thing we need is data. And since we haven't run an experiment, I'm actually going to have a simple data set for us. Now, in this data set, we have 4 groups, all different types of stress levels. So the stress levels would be my independent variable, and we have negligible, minimal, moderate, and severe stress. Within this data set, we have the number of errors made in a memory experiment for each person. So for example, this person made 5 memory errors and they're in the severe stress group. So we're going to use this data set and we're going to do some descriptive statistics. Now, in order to do this, of course, we need the SPSS program. Now, the reason why I don't have the class do SPSS within our classroom setting is simply due to the fact that SPSS is an expensive program and I thought it might be cost prohibitive for a lot of people to get it. So what you're seeing right now is the spreadsheet for the SPSS. Now, this is where one would put the data, and if you go to your lower left, you actually see it says data view right there. But before we begin putting in the data, we need to actually enter in our variables. So we're going to go to right next to the data view tab is the variable view tab. We're going to click on that, and this will allow us to name our variables. And as you can see, the very first column is the name. So under name, we're going to put in condition 1, which is the negligible stress. We're just going to put negligible. We're going to push enter, and it fills in all these different variables. Now, since our data does not have any decimals, they're all whole numbers, I'm going to change the decimals to 0 because they're all whole numbers. I don't need any decimal places. The next group is minimal. Again, change the decimal to 0. The third group is moderate. And the last group is severe stress. So that does it for inputting all of our variable names. We now go back to the data view, and as you can see, our columns now have our variable names. Now, I didn't tell you this, but each row, well, that indicates a participant. So if you have, for example, 27 participants, you're going to use 27 rows. But since this is the descriptive statistics, we're not going to worry about any of that. Okay, so negligible stress. We have the first person, they made 2 memory errors, so we're going to put in a 2. The next person made 1 error, then 4, oops, that's a 1, then 4, and then 1. And then we go to the minimal group. Minimal stress group, the first person made 4 errors, the next made 3, then 2, then 3. We now go to the moderate group. We had 6 errors, 5 errors, 7 errors, and 5 errors. And the last group is severe stress, and that had 5 errors, 7 errors, 8, and then 4. Okay. Now, if I wanted to save this data, I could click on the icon to save, or I can go to File and click on Save As. Either one works. Okay, so now I need to tell the computer where I want to put this. Okay, so here is my hard drive. There's lots of different things to put in it, but this is for the statistics class. So I'm going to click on classes. I'm going to click on statistics. And since this is an SPSS lab, I'm going to click on SPSS. And I don't want to leave it as Untitled 1. So I'm going to call it maybe stress data set. Okay, now that it knows where I want to put that and I have the right name, I'm going to click on Save. Okay, and now we have saved the data. What I want to do now is to do my statistical analyses. So I'm going to go to my favorite menu item, which is Analyze. I'm going to click on Analyze. I'm going to go down to the second option, which is Descriptive Statistics, because that's what I'm going to do today. And I'm going to click on the very first option, which is Frequencies. Now that I have my Frequencies box, if you notice, all the variables are in this box, and that's because SPSS does not know what variables we want to do analyses on. I want to do analyses on all of them. So, oh, that's very convenient. Negligibles already highlighted. I'm going to use the right arrow, and that moves it into the variables box. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other three. So highlight minimal, use the arrow, move it over to the right, moderate, use the arrow, move it to the right, and highlight severe. Use the arrow, move it to the right. Okay, so now I'm going to click on the statistics button, which is the very first button on the top, and I'm going to tell SPSS exactly what type of analyses I want done. So the first are my central tendencies, and how convenient is that? It's at the top right, and I want the mean, the median, and the mode. So I'm going to click on those three boxes. And I also want the descriptive statistics for my variability. Now, they don't call it variability on SPSS, they call it dispersion. So if you look on the lower left, you see dispersion, and we want the standard deviation. Now, STD stands for standard, and then, of course, standard deviation. We click on that. The next one is variance. How convenient, right underneath. And then we go to the next column. We have SE mean, that stands for standard error of the mean. So we're going to click on that. And those are the 6 calculations we want SPSS to do on our variable. So we're going to click on continue. Now, if I had a large data set, I would leave this box clicked off, but because I only have 4 numbers per group, I'm going to take off this box because the frequencies table basically just gives you the frequency of each number within each group, and I don't need that. Okay, so I'm going to click on OK, and I should get my output. And here's my output page. So as you notice, in the top of the table, you have the word statistics, and you have the 4 different conditions: negligible, minimal, moderate, and severe. They're, of course, all the stress levels. The next one says valid. That just tells you that there are 4 valid scores within each of the groups, and there are 0 missing for each of the groups. So the next thing is to look on the left-hand side. And if you look on the left-hand side, you will see the different descriptive statistics that were calculated. So you start with the mean, then the standard error of the mean, the median, the mode, the standard deviation, and the variance. So for example, if I wanted to look at the mean of the negligible group, I would say that the average for the negligible group was 2 memory errors. Versus the severe group, they had an average of 6 memory errors. If I wanted to know the median, let's say I wanted to know what is the median for the minimal group, and here is the median for the minimal group. It would be 3.00. Okay. Now remember, the mode is the most frequent number in a group, and this row right here is the mode for each of my conditions, and it shows me that I have 5 for the mode for moderate, which means 5 errors was the most common of the data points. Right underneath that, you have the standard deviation. Of course, standard deviation gives you an indication about how much variability there was within each group. And of course, the variance is the square of the standard deviation, okay? And you can see here, the minimal stress group had the least amount of variance, and the severe group had the most amount of variance amongst the groups, okay? So that's it for SPSS exercise number 1. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, and have a great day.